Welcome to PACTV Community News. I'm Maureen Boyle.
And I'm Brian Sullivan.
Tonight on PCN, we talk about libraries in the age of Google at a recent Kingston Library Author Talk.
We stop by to listen to some tunes in the garden at Duxbury Free Library, and the South Shore Community Action Council holds another Successful Empty Bowls Fundraiser.
We learn a little bit about life in Duxbury during the 17th century at the Alden House, and we keep Plymouth Beautiful at the annual Hometown Cleanup event.
We also have a brand new Schools in Session with Duxbury Schools Superintendent John Antonucci, but tonight's show starts in Pembroke. As reliable as the sun rising in the east and setting in the west, so is the Pembroke annual Grand Old Fish Fry, at least for the past 42 years. Before that, we're not really sure where the sun came up and went down. The money raised from the event goes to the Pembroke Historical Society, and thanks to all of the volunteers, it goes off without a hitch every year, rain or shine. As the line extends at what appears to be an off-track betting booth, the sounds of announcements of the next duck race permeate the air. Young kids line the banks of the herring run with hockey sticks, waiting to usher the rubber ducks to the finish line while live music is being played on the back lot. If nostalgia had a look, this would be it. It's a lot like a scene from a Norman Rockwell painting here, and they've been doing this for 42 years. They get a great turnout every year, and there's still plenty of parking, thanks in large part to the neighbors across the street who own the airstrip. They donated a big chunk of the land today for people to park, and there's even more space if you decide to fly an airplane in. Whether by air, land, or sea, if it's the first Sunday in May, the townspeople come out of the woodworks to take part in the Pembroke Historical Society's largest fundraiser. And really, not too much has changed at this event since the first one back in 1976, except for maybe the fish.
It started very simply 42 years ago with Bobby Hackett from Bobby Hackett's restaurant that used to be down on Route 53. He was out here in his chef whites and he was frying up herring that they would catch right out of the herring run here. But now things have expanded and we can't get the herring anymore. So now we have adapted and we're selling fish cakes and hot dogs and hamburgers.
And then, of course, there are the duck races, which have been a huge draw since they first started doing them over 20 years ago. In fact, many of the ducks are pre-sold at several of the local restaurants, but there are always ducks available, and with $50 on the line, $2 seems like a worthwhile investment. Everyone here helping out is doing it voluntarily, whether it's the balloon stand, Peter and Marie serving up lunch, the folks from the Fork in the Road cooking up burgers and dogs and frying the fish, or even the local kids doing some face painting.
We had a huge onslaught of teenagers from the National Honor Society at Pembroke High School that were here early helping us set up, and they have been fantastic.
If only for a few hours on one Sunday a year in the month of May, the atmosphere certainly harkens back to a simpler time, before the advent of handheld devices, where the local cops knew most everyone in town by name as they stopped traffic to let them cross the road, and kids could have fun just watching rubber ducks float down a river.
This is just family fun, good old-fashioned family fun, and that is our biggest goal, and we could not do it without all of the volunteers that are here at 8 o'clock in the morning setting it up, and also with the support of the town. Particularly this year, because we had all the horrible storms this winter, there were about 20 trees behind me that were down, and that whole back area was just covered in trees. And thanks to the generosity of the town of Pembroke and the selectmen, they supported the effort to get it cleaned up in time so that we could have this fish fry again.
In Pembroke, reporting for PCN, I'm Brian Sullivan.
The library is a great place to get work done, especially while in high school or college. But according to author John Palfrey, they're good for more than just studying in this new age of technology. Palfrey talked about his new book, Bibliotech: Why Libraries Matter More Than Ever in the Age of Google, at the Kingston Library Spring Author Talk hosted at the Kingston Council on Aging.
Wonderful world where the kids on a Friday night want more time in their library to do robotics.
So tonight we're at the Kingston Council on Aging, and I'm delighted to be able to speak about a book called Bibliotech that I've written, and it's a chance, I think, to talk with the community about why libraries are so important at this moment in your town's history. Many people, I think, believe libraries are less necessary or maybe not as necessary as they've been in the past, and my argument is they're more important than ever. So I'm the head of a school which is called Phillips Academy in Andover, Mass. And so I spend a lot of time with young people who are very bright and hardworking kids. And one of the things that I study is the way that they're learning. And so part of the background for this book is trying to make an argument for why, for these students, the library space is so crucial in terms of where they study and the way that they're learning, also the ways in which they're making new things. And libraries, I think, can support the kind of learning that we need for our kids in this 21st century in ways that other institutions, even like schools, can't do as well in some cases. And that collaboration between schools and libraries, that's for one age demographic, are so powerful. The book Bibliothèque is really about the fact that libraries have a place in the digital age that is super important, even though everybody can get access to information through a device like this. I think people often think because we have such good access right on our body to the world's store of knowledge that we don't need libraries. And my argument is that we need libraries and librarians more than we ever have, and that there's a really close connection between that and our democracies. And that's true at a local level, and it's true in a big city level, and it's true at a national level as well.
We're looking for more and more opportunities to hear new ideas, as through this author program, and opportunities to share passions and share opportunities to work together collaboratively, more ways to equalize access for people who have and people who don't have. So the library's technology offerings are increasingly important, and it's going to be a real focus for our library as we move forward.
Well, I think it's nice that the libraries have a strong advocate, and it's something they definitely need, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really, I have to say it's nice that someone's writing about this and studying it. I've always felt that libraries are really critical to communities, even if it's just their programming. It brings a lot of people together, especially kids. Like story time in itself is like mom and dad can sip their iced coffee while their kids read to for a couple hours.
Kidding.
It's good for mom and dad. It's great for the kids. It's great for collective learning, and it's great for the community.
It's great for the community. I mean, there's so many free programs at these libraries that people aren't even aware of, and luckily, we're able to highlight a lot of the stuff in the libraries. I'm more than happy to have us highlight this stuff. So that was a great story.
Yeah.
As a way to showcase their new outdoor reading area, the Duxbury Free Library is hosting a Music in the Garden series for the month of May. Each Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock this month, they will feature a new artist playing live music in the garden for all to enjoy. It's free to the public, and we were there for the first show.
This is at the Duxbury Public Library. They have a new series called the May Music Series. This is the first one, and every Thursday from now until the end of May, they'll have a different performer.
This is part of a greater plan. We're expanding our programming. We are known all over the South Shore for a lot of our literary programming and our historical programming. We wanted to do some new and different things, so this year we added some music in our beautiful new reading garden. And Dave Kelly is our first performer in a series of 3.
The title of, I guess what you would call my set is Stories to a Song. I like songs because some of them will tell a real story, some are historical events, some are made up just from what people have constructed in their own mind. They can bring you back to a time when, like to me, it's high school. Bruce Springsteen, Racing in the Streets. That's a great story song. However, it's a great song that brings me back to high school. I think of my friends, the cars we drove around with, and all that. Most of it is from Americana, if you're familiar with that. That kind of started in the 70s, but really came to light in the 90s. Play a lot of Guy Clark, Townes Van Zandt, John Prine, some Bruce Springsteen, play a little Johnny Cash, although none today, some Chris Christopherson, Willie Nelson, Jerry Jeff Walker, Bob Dylan, people like that.
We're definitely hoping for some buzz about the concert series. We'd like it to be, the music at Copley or the Esplanade or all the great places around the South Shore that has music available to the public in an outdoor space. You can bring your lunch, bring the kids, come and relax, bring a blanket, have fun.
Well, hopefully a crowd will come. If a crowd doesn't come, maybe they'll see this or hear from word of mouth that, hey, there was a guy playing, we should go back, and they'll come back and see the future ones, and then hopefully want me back at some point.
We're very excited to have it. It expands basically our meeting areas and our performing space. It was beautifully designed. It's being maintained with the support of our Friends of the Library group, and we're grateful to them. As you can see, it's a beautiful day, and we hope we have many more like it and more programs out here.
Plymouth South High School recently hosted the South Shore Community Action Council's 4th annual Empty Bowls Fundraiser. It was a packed house, and guests dined on a modest meal of soup, bread, and water to help support the organization's food resource program. Guests also left with a handmade bowl to remind them of the prevalent hunger issues here on the South Shore. The evening was full of hope, and PCN has the story.
Well, we're quite excited to be here tonight because this is our 4th year doing this particular event, and all the volunteers and everybody that's so excited to be here.
So Empty Bowls is a grassroots, an international grassroots organization that started a long time ago. This is Plymouth's 4th year in a row. We call it our 4th annual Empty Bowls, where we have partnered with the South Shore Community Action Council. They are the people that we give the money to, that we raise here. So the idea is that artists, craftspeople, members of the community come together, make bowls throughout the year at different workshops that we have, and then come here tonight to celebrate in a simple meal of bread, soup, and salad.
This year we're at Plymouth South. We're at the new high school, so we're organized a little bit different space-wise, but we also have some different soups, but other than that, it's the same people. We've had more Girl Scout troops, I think, this year than ever, who had some clay parties at Clay Chick.
I did see an uptick in people's participation this year for sure. I think, you know, climate of the culture that we're living in, people are being a little bit more mindful of each other perhaps. We had a lot more people making bowls, and I expect to see a lot more people tonight enjoying the soup and just the community event.
The bowls were created by volunteers. People came out and worked with clay, they painted them. We have a lovely assortment in the hallway, and people are able to take one home as a reminder of the Empty Bowls program.
I love watching everyone walk in and look at the bowls and just get excited, trying to find their own. They're excited to see what's here, and it's just a really nice way to give back to your community.
The arts are very connected to the community. They're very important to the community. They raise awareness on lots of different issues, and in this case, it's hunger. Hunger is a real issue in the community of Plymouth. We have lots of students in the Plymouth Public Schools that have free or reduced lunch. We have students that their only meals happen at school.
My favorite part of Empty Bowls is watching the community come together and support each other, and just to be mindful of the people in our community that are food insecure. It's a great night. We get to watch a lot of people make bowls. Some people that aren't especially feeling like they're artistic, they just have a really great time making their bowl. I would just like to say thank you to all of our sponsors, all of our businesses that communicate with each other to help. We have a great business community in our town, and people really care and really like to get involved, so I'm just really grateful for that. So I would just say thank you.
PCN stopped into the Alden House in Duxbury this past school vacation to learn about how local historic sites can serve as an out-of-school learning experience for kids. On the day PCN stopped in, a young student group was partaking in Colonial Adventures, a hands-on lesson that taught the kids all about life in the 17th century.
So the Alden House historic site is, of course, the family homestead of Mayflower Pilgrims John and Priscilla Alden, beginning in 1627 and throughout this time. So it's been here. It's the one of few remaining pilgrim sites to exist in our country, and it's been owned by the same family ever since 1627. So a wonderful legacy, wonderful heritage, and a wonderful part of early Duxbury, and the chance that it's still here to share that is very special. You know, we like to engage children in history beyond the textbooks, beyond a tour, some hands-on history. It's during the vacation week, and it's a wonderful opportunity to come here and learn a little bit about their local history and what happened here in Duxbury a long time ago, to help them understand that, you know, the Pilgrims aren't just people that they remember from their history books, that they were real people, you know, learning how to live in a wilderness and cope and function and thrive. They get to do the chores that kids would have done long ago. They get to play some of the games, and they get to taste some of foods that that they would have had, you know, 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago. So I think to get kids interested in history is really such an important thing. They live crazy lives, and it's all very electronic. They come here in places like this, and they don't, you know, it's not electronic. It's doing. It's learning how to spin a spinning wheel. It's learning how to make a candle or to cook over the hearth. So it's just such a great, great time and opportunity to really try something maybe they've never tried before. Local history is the story of a community. It's the story of the people who grew up here, who went to school, who built homes. And, you know, it changes over time. So a chance to look back and to try and to do, that's really, you know, it helps you appreciate your community and our wider community of our country and, you know, things that have gone before us. Helps us appreciate where we are today and gives us a new understanding of how we got here. It's a wonderful opportunity to make history really real and come to life.
Hey, someone take that. You're good. Powdered sugar all
Nancy Carroll is an environmentalist who wants to live in a clean town with a clean ocean. If that means dressing up in a costume that looks like it was made of garbage to remind people not to litter, then so be it. Known by many in these parts as the Litter Lady, Nancy has helped to spearhead the hometown cleanup day here in Plymouth twice a year, once in the spring and one more time in the fall. We met up for the spring cleanup over on Warren Ave recently, where the volunteers had their hands full with cleaning up debris on the side of the road.
Today is Hometown Cleanup Day, and we do this twice a year. And often when we do it, we pick up about 900 bags, huge trash bags of trash. Litter, 900 bags. The reason I'm here today and the reason I've been doing this for 10 years is the ocean over there, the critters in the ocean, the whales, the herring. They're out there eating our plastic trash. We're on Warren Avenue, right across from Long Beach and Plymouth, and a lot of, with the storms and the destruction of buildings, a lot of debris ended up across the street here. And my friend and I, Joan, who lives down the street, we cry when we drive past here because it's so bad. Anyway, there's construction debris, there's plastic, there's tires. We really got a special group of people here today to go in this rocky area and haul that stuff out of there. We have a police escort because otherwise it wouldn't be safe for our volunteers to be in here because it's right, there's no leeway from the street and there's a lot of traffic. We work really hard every time we advertise to get more people to come out. I think we've got a church group here today, which is really wonderful. We've been trying to do that, get some different groups around town to commit a few people to come be with us. The other reason we have more people this time is there was a herring festival a couple of weekends ago, and we had a table there, and we had purple bags, and we had our sign-up sheets, and we were just grabbing people off the street. Hey, you live in Plymouth? We're having cleanup day. Why don't you join us? Sign up right here. Oh, cleanup day. Oh, yeah. So, you know, we write the letters in the newspaper every time. We do a lot of the same things, but that was new. And that got us about 20 new either individuals or groups. The fact we're on Warren Avenue, a lot of people are seeing us. A lot of cars driving by. And we need more people to join us, and we need people to not litter. not litter. That's the end game. No more litter. There doesn't need to be litter. No more litter.
We're introducing a new segment this week called Schools in Session. We've got our first guest, Duxbury Superintendent of Schools, John Antonucci. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, Brian.
You are actually kind of the new sheriff in town, but you've got a nice resume behind you. Talk to me about where you came from and how you got here.
Yeah. So I'm new to Duxbury. I'm almost at the end of my first year here in town, and it's been wonderful. The community's been very welcoming, and I've been working hard, but I've had a great first year. I come to Duxbury by way of Westwood. I was the superintendent of the Westwood Public Schools for 12 years.
Right.
And which was a long time actually for a superintendent. And I was telling someone recently, superintendents typically on the older side. And for me, I got that Westwood job at a very young age, and I always knew that I would make another move in my career. And so the time came, and I asked myself, if I was going to make a move out of Westwood, that I wanted to end up in a community that really valued public education, that had a strong sense of community, and Duxbury fit that bill. And so when the job opened last year, I chased it, and I landed here, and I'm thrilled.
And here you are, and you walk into a whole new set of things. You've got new personnel. Talk to me about who's there, new assistant superintendent, new principals. Tell me about that.
Yeah, a lot of changes in the personnel side of things this year. So before I came on board, two things happened, some major administrative positions. The high school principal, Andrew Stevens, who had been there for about 10 years, left to take a new role in Lexington. And the assistant superintendent, Dr. Laurie Hunter, took a superintendency at Concord Carlisle. So before I walked in the door, I had these two major vacancies.
Yeah.
So as far as the high school principal goes, we did a kind of a small search last summer, appointed the current assistant principal, Jim Donovan, to the interim high school principal role. Jim has done an unbelievable job. He proved himself in very short order to be a tremendous leader. And so I think it was December or January, I actually appointed Jim to be the permanent high school principal. And I'm really thrilled for him. I'm thrilled for Duxbury. He's worked his whole career in the Duxbury Public Schools, and he's doing a great job. So that's the high school principal. The assistant superintendent, because of the lateness of Dr. Hunter's departure, I also did a search for an interim. And I was very fortunate to have landed a gentleman by the name of Tim Farmer, who was a longtime educator and most recently the superintendent of the Sharon Public Schools.
Okay.
So Tim retired from the Sharon Public Schools in August, and about a week later joined me as the interim assistant superintendent, and Tim has just done a remarkable job. It's only a one-year position, so we just did a full-scale, very comprehensive, thorough search for a permanent assistant, and we landed just a tremendous leader, a woman by the name of Danielle Klingeman, who's currently a principal in North Attleboro. So Danielle starts on July 1. I'm so excited to have her on board. People describe her as a natural-born leader. She's had tremendous success in her career, and she's really excited to join the Duxbury team. So she'll be on board July 1, and we'll go from there.
Sounds great, and we wouldn't be able to let you leave without talking about the budget. Who doesn't like to talk about the budget, right?
So budget's been a source of a lot of conversation this year and a lot of work, quite frankly. It's actually my background. I came into public education on the business side of things. I served as a director of finance and an assistant superintendent focused on business and finance. So it's an area of comfort for me. I also think it's an area of great need in public schools. So as far as the budget goes in Duxbury this year, two things. First is that I made a pretty strong commitment, even during the search process last year, and certainly when I started, to create a budget document that was very transparent and very easy to understand. I always say anybody in the community, whether it's a board of selectmen or a parent, should be able to pick up the budget document and understand
and make sense of it.
Make sense of it. Yeah, what we're all about, and just try to eliminate lingo, try to just provide clarity. And so I've been successful in that in my past life, and so we spent a lot of time on that in the first 4 or 5 months, and we created a document that I'm very proud of, and I think was very well received. So that's the document.
Right.
The bigger picture, though, of the budget is the actual level of resources that are committed to public schools.
Of course.
And in my kind of quick analysis, and early on in my career here in Duxbury, I really think we need more resources. I actually think it's a fairly lean budget.
Yeah.
Our per pupil spending, if you look at that metric that's widely available, Duxbury, although it's got a reputation as it is a very high achieving district and it's a wonderful community, they actually spend at a at a pretty low rate relative to other districts like ours and relative even to the state average. So I'm trying to start the dialogue, at least locally, about how can we secure more resources for the schools, and if so, what's the district going to look like in the future?
Got it. Tech in the curriculum. This is the big thing. Every school that I go to, and I go to all the schools that we cover here, and tech is the big thing.
Yeah.
What do you guys have going on to kind of keep up with the Joneses?
Yeah, so Duxbury's done a great job before I got here with the technology, partly because they built a new building about 4 years ago, and partly because they had a superintendent who preceded me that was very invested in integrating technology into the classroom. So they grew leaps and bounds over the last 5 or 6 years in that area, to the point where we have state-of-the-art infrastructure in all of our buildings. And most recently, they've gone to a one-to-one computing model in grades 7 to 12. And that means that every student in grades 7 to 12 has a device, like a laptop that is provided by the district. The challenge right now is the sustainability of that model. So the district made a strategic decision at the time to go with Apple products.
All right.
Every student has a MacBook Air.
Like we had growing up.
Yeah,
right?
not quite, right? So they're incredible machines, very robust. They allow you to do a lot of things. The question is, can we afford that model? Since Duxbury's made that decision, and again, 4 or 5, 6 years ago at this point, the whole landscape has changed in the area of technology. Yeah. So a device like a Google Chromebook, if you've ever heard of a Google Chromebook, which is really just kind of a portal to the internet.
Yep.
Our question is, kind of next steps. Do we stick with the Apple products, which is very expensive and potentially not sustainable? Do we transition to another device? And really, does the device matter? Right?
Really?
And so, the cloud has grown, so to speak.
Yeah.
A lot of our work is done on the cloud. So many would argue, and I'm kind of in that camp, that the device really has become a secondary part of the conversation. Is as long as we can get our students access to the cloud, how that happens really becomes secondary. So we're in that conversation now. This year we had a technology review committee that we formed. We brought an outside consultant in to come help us study both our program and also look at some research about what's happening in other districts and what's happening in the country. And the report from that technology review was made, I think, in March or April at the school committee level. And it really was just looking at, okay, where are we today and what are the next steps? And our next steps really is about, is our technology program actually enhancing teaching and learning? And that's the $64,000 question. Right. Is it just because we have shiny new products, just because we have beautiful technology? If we're not actually enhancing teaching and learning, then really it's not a valuable program.
And that could always come back to the budget too.
Absolutely.
Doesn't it always?
Yeah.
Well, I think you and I probably could have talked about this all day. I'm just looking out. I think we're just about out of time.
Oh my goodness, okay.
I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for watching. If you want to see the show again, you can check out our website, and PCN is also on YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook to get up-to-date information. We'll see you next week with a brand new PCN and PCN Life. From all of us here at PACTV, have a great week.